What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Revived. I am your host, as always, Shane, and joining me, as usual, is my lovely co-host, Jesse.
Welcome back.
So it's been a good minute since we've done a podcast episode. It's been over a month because, it kind of just got to the point that I feel like we were having podcast episodes and we were just kind of phoning it in a little bit. So what I said after the last one was, we'll do a podcast when it makes sense to do a podcast. And if you've noticed, a couple of things. First off, this is going to look a bit different. Hopefully this looks better to you guys. We're more zoomed in so you can see us a bit more clearly. We're a bit closer to the actual screen. But also, today's topic is exactly kind of what we were waiting for, a reason to really have a podcast. And the reason for today's podcast is the Z Flip 3. Now, if this was a device that I was daily driving, I would do one of my normal videos where I would just talk about it myself. But since this phone, the Z Flip 3, was actually bought for Jessie to daily drive, to use as her phone, I thought what we would do is something a little bit different. We would have basically just a conversation where I'm going to be sort of just asking her questions about her experience with the Z Flip 3. It's been, like 2 weeks or so, week and a half, 10 days?
Yeah.
Something like that?
It came in on the 27th or something, so, and it's the 8th today. It's actually been a couple of weeks now. So you've got, I feel like that's a pretty good amount of time to kind of get to know the phone and get to know the device itself. So we're going to go over everything in this video. We're going to try to be very thorough and also conversational. So the first thing I would like to just ask and to kind of suss out here is, you were using the Pixel 5 before. So let's get some context here. What about the Z Flip? The Pixel 5 is a great phone. It's got phenomenal battery life. It's got a phenomenal camera. The Z Flip, you looked at it and you thought, I need that in my pocket. What about the Z Flip pulled you in? Why the Z Flip? I mean, first of all, because it's adorable. Look at it.
Move it a little bit more into the center. There you go.
I was cut off. I forgot.
Remember, you're cut off. Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, I wanted the Motorola Razr first.
Yeah.
And we had gone to Best Buy to look at some of the, I think we went to go see the Fold or whatever. We popped in for some reason and I immediately went and looked at the Razr phone and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I'm being hit with nostalgia and it's really cool. It's got the front display. And then right next to it, they actually had, I feel like they had the Flip 2, didn't they?
Yeah, they did have the Flip there.
We initially saw the Flip 2. And I was like, oh, that one's really cute, too.
Technically, by the way, just because someone in the comments is going to go, no, it's not called the Z Flip 2. It was the Z Flip 5G. So there was the Z Flip that was 4G. Okay. Then they did a Z Flip 5G, which looked identical. Right. And now there's the Z Flip 3. Technically, there was not a Z Flip 2. But before you make your comments out there, keep it to yourself.
Listen, I'm just the layman, okay? I'm not the reviewer here. But I've been wanting actually to go back to a flip phone for a while, just strictly out of nostalgia. And when you got the Fold, that kind of changed the way that you use your phone. It's not really a phone anymore. It's more of a media consuming device. But for me, my phone is my phone. Right. I loved my Google 5. Honestly, there are parts of me that still misses just having that phone because of the size. But this phone right here fits in my pocket and I love that. And also, who doesn't want to go back to that?
Yeah. It's cool.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Also, the front display. I wouldn't want this phone if it didn't have one.
Yeah, and that's a big distinction. If it didn't have that,
I wouldn't give a crap.
That's a big distinction between the Flip 3 and the prior Flip models, is that the prior Flip models, yeah, there was a screen on the outside, but it was so little, it was so tiny that it barely qualified as a screen. It was effectively useless. And when you compared that to the Razr, which had this massive cover display, which is still bigger than the Flip 3's cover display, in fact.
Yeah, it is.
You know, but the Z Flip 3, I think, is easily big enough that, you know, like, this is something that I've enjoyed seeing. So one of my coworkers, rather surprisingly, also bought the Z Flip 3, bought the lavender version as well.
Yes,
and she'll leave it.
I find awesome.
Yeah, so she'll leave it underneath the desk where she works, and you know, you'll see her kind of do one of these. She'll kind of like peek down and just look. Oh, you know, got a notification or whatever. So she can look down and peek and see that little screen and see what's going on. But also the you know, the screen, it's closed up, so it's safe. You know, my part-time job is in a warehouse basically. And it's not always the safest place to just have a phone sitting someplace.
Right.
But, you know, she can leave it sitting there and it's going to feel quite safe. Nothing bad's going to happen to it because it's covered up and closed in there. But she can still see her notifications and so forth. If it didn't have that decent cover display, I don't think that it would be... It would be a much worse phone. Absolutely.
It'd be a harder sell because there's still part of me that honestly, like, I still really think that, like, as far as design goes, I think that the Razr wins in design. Just like, I feel like if you're hitting the nostalgia button, like, they're winning. That's it. But as far as, like, you know, being practical, I think that Samsung knows what they're doing. Yeah. So they've got the display on the front, and it's not just like some half-assed display. I hope it's okay if I say that. Yeah, but like, fair. They were smart in making their case too. One thing that I will say that I'm not like a huge fan of is like how big the actual phone is. So I still have really small hands, but they made this case with this like ring on it so that you can kind of like, I guess, hold it. Yeah. But it's still like, I mean, it's a huge phone. And it's very tall. I can't one-hand that. Like, I really cannot do that. I still have to do the pinky thing, which I hate. Yeah. I hate that because I know when I'm like an old lady, I'm gonna have problems with my pinky.
Yeah. Here's a fucked up thing, and you might even see it in this image. My right pinky is curved, and my left one is straight. And like you might not
Mine
be.
Mine is too.
Yeah, it's from our phone. Like 100%. Like, do this at home. Do this at home. Get your pinkies out, right? And they're curved. They're curved now because we've all been holding phones like this for, you know, most of our lives, and it has deformed us. So our children's children will have weird hooked pinkies out of the womb. They're just gonna be born with.
That's not how that's gonna work.
They're gonna be born with phone holders. Just built into their pinky.
It's gonna get longer too.
Yeah, it's gonna be the future is gonna be a fucking gross post-apocalyptic world of gross long hooked pinkies. Horrible.
That much longer.
Horrible future.
It's great. I also want to show it off outside of the case, which I don't ever take the case off of it because I'm very bad with phones.
Well,
like,
pop the case off and let's go around the device and kind of show the hardware that we're talking about. So first off, that is the case. It is described as being silicone, and I expected silicone to mean something soft. It's not soft.
It's not. It's rigid.
It is rigid. It is grippy, which is great. Samsung's phones are very, very slippery. That case feels super, super premium. I was extremely impressed with how that case actually felt.
Like, too close to my mic. Sorry about that.
No, I didn't hear anything. But let's just take us around the Z Flip here. So go, you know, let's obviously on the back side there. Go back to that back side. You can see you've got two cameras on the back. It's a wide and an ultra wide, which we'll talk about camera performance a little bit later. You got the cover display up top. You have an LED flash there. Let's go to one of the sides. Let's just kind of go around the device.
So
on that side, looks like you've just got your SIM tray on that side. I don't think anything else is on that side, is it?
No.
Yeah, just your SIM tray.
And then
on the other side, you've got a fingerprint scanner, which is also your power button, and then up at the top you have your volume rockers. Now, for me, the power button / fingerprint scanner is entirely too high on the device. I would have almost preferred to see it on the lower half and the volume button's where the power button is, because show trying to one hand that thing and hit that power button. Make sure you almost drop it.
I did almost drop it. Okay, so hold on.
Make sure you're in the middle. It's up so high.
I'm like honestly scared.
Yeah, it's up so high. It's really awkward to get to. But
it should be down here. That was a design flaw.
It would be better down there.
On the next one, you need to put it down here.
And
because for me, that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Like absolutely perfect.
Without that ring in the case, it's tough to unlock.
There's one speaker.
On the bottom,
also another thing.
So, well, kind of. So on the bottom, you've got obviously 2 microphones, USB-C port, and a speaker. And technically, it does have stereo audio. Show the very top, like the front, but kind of up where your earpiece would be, because there's nothing up there. Show like the screen side. Yeah. So right above the screen, you're not gonna be able to see this, but right above that hole punch selfie camera, there's a tiny little slit, and that's where your earpiece is, but it is an amplified earpiece, and audio does, when you're playing a video, audio does come out of there. Now, it's not as balanced. The bottom speaker is louder than the amplified earpiece, but you do technically have stereo sound. It doesn't touch the Z Fold at all, but for an average phone, you know, I would say it probably similar to your Pixel 5 in terms of audio quality, right? And loudness. It is technically stereo, but it's
pretty loud.
It's good. So that's kind of a look at the hardware on the Z Flip. Overall, go ahead.
You can kind of see the crease, but honestly, that's not something. Wow, you can really see it in the reflection. That's a really good example.
Do you notice the crease or the valley in your day-to-day use? Is it something that you notice? And if you do, is it something that you're bothered by or that you care about?
No, I don't care about it. Partially just because I'm a pretty patient person. There are a lot of things I'm particular about, but I'm nowhere near like particular as someone like you. Like, I feel like if yours was maybe in the middle of your screen like that, it would probably bother you a lot.
So real quick to clarify, the biggest difference here between what we deal with is yours is horizontal in the middle, mine is vertical in the middle. So for me, as I'm doing things, I typically am over here, and sometimes I'll go across, but not usually. And you can probably attest to this as well. At the right angle, you do see it, and you will feel it from time to time. But it's not that big of a deal. And when you're like viewing content, watching a video, you don't see it. And if you're looking straight on, obviously I'm showing to you straight on, but there's a big ring light pointed at it and a screen to reflect off of. I don't emanate light, so when I'm looking at my phone, I don't see the crease. And has that been your experience when you're viewing content, you don't see it?
It depends. If I'm in the right lighting, I will see it.
If there's light over your shoulder reflecting in the right angle.
Right, which I have, typical places that I'm going to be using my phone like that. A lot of times, if I'm reading something, you're going to find this really weird probably. If I'm reading stuff, I have it in this position, like that right there. And I will have like whatever the article is, I'll have it up and I'll just be like scrolling through it. Doesn't bother me a bit. And I don't care that little crease is there. I have, however, been watching, like, I'll watch like YouTube videos or I'll watch something on Netflix. And so sometimes, like, if I'm at work and I'm watching videos, like, I'll see that crease. And it kind of irritates me, but that's mostly just when I'm in like a workplace setting or a warehouse setting where the lighting is like, instead of being like at home on the couch or wherever where I'm gonna have it typically like right in a spot where it's not noticeable at all.
Okay. Well, I think that's fair, and that's a good bit of information for people, that if you're spend all the time in a bright area, that glare might affect you more than it might affect others. So the hinge, the metal is what they're calling it, is armor aluminum, so it should be more durable. Gorilla Glass Victus on the back, and then they have a new screen protector on the inside that is made with a specialized PET layer, which is supposed to be 80% more durable than the Z Fold 2 and the Z Flip 5G. So more durability all around on the design. Personally, I think the Z Flip 3 looks great. From just a strictly appearance perspective, I think it's great. My only real complaint would be move the power button down because it's up too high.
Yeah.
As for the displays, the interior display is very big. It's very tall, but it, 120 hertz looks good. It's fast.
Yeah, the
colors
screen
are
is
good.
Beautiful.
It's brighter.
The screen protector is really good too.
Yep. It's brighter than before. The new screen protector is smooth. It's not sticky. Doesn't like the last gen was. Doesn't pick up fingerprints like the last gen was. Screens are great. I can't imagine you have any real complaints other than what we've talked about regarding the screens.
Yeah.
As for the cameras, we've taken some pictures, and I've actually got a camera review-ish kind of video already up. I will link that in the description if you want to check that out, get more detail. Coming from Pixel 5 to the Flip 3, is there any noticeable degradation? Are you missing the Pixel's camera when you're using the Flip, or do you find it to be sufficient?
There are sometimes I do miss the camera, but I think part of the thing that, makes it a little bit easier to handle is the fact that, like, I'm not really on social media anymore, so I'm not, like, posting pictures or videos. I just kicked something underneath my desk. But, yeah, I'm not, like, posting anything anywhere, so for me, it's not a big deal. Also, I was starting to get a little bit annoyed with how Pixel would, like, over sharpen everything. So, like, some of the last few photos I remember taking, I remember being like, oh man, this is just like you can tell when it's a Pixel photo, like it's so over sharpened. But like actually being able to go into the pro mode on the Samsung, now that I know how it works, I think it does a really good job. So
yeah, I would agree. I think that the camera, it's definitely not as good as the Pixel 5's camera in terms of dynamic range and honestly in detail as well. I know that there's times when you feel like they try to squeeze so much detail out that you feel like it looks over sharpened. I don't know that I would necessarily agree, but I can see what you're getting at. It's definitely not as good as the Pixel 5, but is it adequate? Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like, I took this photo today. It's gonna be hard to tell, but like there's like that's their portrait mode, so like it wasn't as good. But as far as like the detail looks fine to me. I'm not like a photographer or anything, but like that's it outside of the pro mode, and like the colors look really good, the lighting looked really good. I took one the other day on I took the one the other day on the display, and like that was the result. Like
on the display, like so you took it with the flip closed.
Yeah. And I thought that, like, I don't know, it just surprised me. I was like, oh, it actually looks pretty good. I mean, for me, like, it's fine.
Yeah. I think it's people, will jump on this thing and say, oh, it's $1,000. It should have a, the 108 megapixel camera out of the Ultra or whatever. And if you feel that way, that's fine. But the reality is that these 12 megapixel cameras, just like the ones in the Fold, are 100% sufficient for literally everybody. Do you have?
But also, sorry to interrupt, but I don't think that people who are buying the Fold or the Flip, they're not buying it for the camera.
Sure, as long as the camera is good enough, which it definitely is, you're going to be fine. And I never use my Fold and go, man, I wish the camera was better. And I'm sure you probably, the Flip, it's never going to leave you hanging. It's fine.
Yeah.
So we can talk about the software now. So, obviously, One UI is a lot better than it used to be. Samsung software is a lot better than it used to be. And overall, I think it's fine. I think that they still do ads a lot in there that most people will never, ever use. What problems have you had with Samsung's software?
I mean, it's not necessarily problems. It's just, I feel like a person who's coming from Apple, like, over to Android. Like, I've been on, like, Google for ever. Like, for the majority of the last 7 years, I've been using a Google phone.
Yeah,
And
you used a Xiaomi phone there for about a year in between the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 5.
Yeah, but I love their software. Their software was freaking great. Like, honestly, I had a lot of fun with that phone. And I feel like they were always releasing stuff that had new features besides just like fixing things. Like, they were actually adding stuff in.
Yeah.
But the Google software I got really used to. One issue that we had to like go in and fiddle with obviously was the integration of Google Assistant, because I use it a lot and it wasn't just like immediately ready on my phone.
Your hot word detection was enabled by default, so we had to go in and turn that on. Another thing was by default it wants to use Samsung's password manager, so you have to go in and change the autofill service from Samsung to Google, which was annoying. One-time thing you have to do that's like, it's a little annoying, but
and haven't had any issues since either. Sure. And honestly, as I've gone into like when I go into my work schedule, like I have to go in through a website and sign in, like it pops up immediately, and it's honestly a lot quicker than the Pixel 5 was on that. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but it's quicker when it brings up the autofill.
Yeah.
Also, I don't have any issues with it not remembering my stuff. Like, sometimes Google would get confused and be like, "Oh, do you want to pull up the app information or like whatever?" But Samsung, it's fine because I used it for a day before we switched it over. But the Google Voice stuff, going back to that, like, it would have just automatically been set up.
Yeah.
If I had just gotten, like, let's say I had gotten like another Pixel phone, we would have set it up and it would have just automatically been like, day one, do you want to do all this stuff? And I would have been like, yeah.
I bet that what that is it's probably from Samsung has Bixby. So they want you to use Bixby. So I wonder.
I'm never gonna use.
No one does. I wonder if that might, like, because my Fold also that hot word detection also would have had to be manually enabled. So that may just be a Samsung quirk, and it may just be due to the fact that they want you to use Bixby. I don't know, but it can be pretty quickly turned on and you're fine. But it wasn't super obvious. It didn't just pop up and say, hey, you want to use this? We had to actually go into Google, go into the settings, find the setting, and turn it on. It was a little annoying.
Right, that was a little annoying. One other thing too that I miss dearly that I hope some other people understand if they have this feature, but oh my god, the call screening. I miss that so much.
Yeah.
Like, I have had to answer a few phone calls just thinking that they might be, people from a new job, but like, man, that feature was awesome, and I really relied on it a lot too. Like, it knew when things were spam calls, and if it wasn't sure, like, it would just automatically screen the call. And I think that just needs to be a feature on phones now anyways. Like, everybody needs to do that.
Yeah, it's a great feature for sure. That's some of that Pixel goodness that it's hard to go without once you've gotten used to it. So this is kind of a software thing, and this is probably the biggest sticking point people have with the Z Flip 3. So the Flip 3 has a 3,300 milliamp hour battery, which is not very big. It's bigger than the Pixel 3, which was really small. A 120 hertz display, Snapdragon 888, so the most powerful, fastest processor on the market. Battery life, is not phenomenal. You're not going to get 6 hours of screen on time on your Flip 3, right? But if you're okay with getting 11 to 12 hours on a single charge and 3 to 4 hours of screen time, which, granted, if you cut your screen time down, you can get more battery life. But that's, if you're going to push your screen on time to 3 or 4 hours, expect 11, 12 hours on a charge. If you're okay with that, that's kind of where you're going to be at. You went from the Pixel 5, which had great battery life, to the Flip 3, which had, slower processor, 90 hertz screen, bigger battery. I know I'm just trying to fit in. So faster processor, faster screen, smaller battery equals worse battery life. How has the battery life treated you? Has it been a problem for you? Yeah.
Well, okay. I will say this. It is. I'm gonna be brutally honest in this. Like, there are a lot of pitfalls with this phone that I'm not used to. And the battery definitely is one of them, because I'm one of those people that obsessively worries about my battery.
Can I give a really quick example, not to totally cut you off?
Yeah.
So earlier today, it was about 4 o'clock, and you've been off, and you've been kind of pounding the battery today. You've hit like you were like 4.5 hours of screen time by, well, like it was like 4 o'clock. And you had it sitting on the wireless charger, and it was at like 45%. And you said, it's charging too slow. I'm going to go put it on a faster charger. And I sat there and I thought, if you picked it up now, it will almost certainly get you to the end of the night from where it is to then. But you want it back to 100 or close to it, even though
80% is good enough for me for this time of day.
It's like, you're not going to use 80% of your battery again between now and 9:30 when it's back on the charger, because we're probably going to bed soon. Like, but I just wanted to, like, you could have easily made it the rest of the day. You didn't have to charge it, but you were like, oh God, it's only 40%, which is like, that's almost half. There's not half more of the day left. Like, you're 2/3 of the way through the day. You're fine. But yeah, a lot of people do that, and a lot of people feel that way.
It's like an anxiety thing.
Battery anxiety is real.
Yeah, so I have battery anxiety, and I don't like it to be below 50%. Even though I'm at home and I'm surrounded by chargers.
There's this unreasonable thing we do there where anything under 50% feels like it's dying, but it's like, no, that's still half left.
Yeah, and it's fine. So I used it a lot today, because we were actually having issues with our Chromecast. So I was casting everything directly from my phone just to the TV. So I was using it a lot. I think I watched like a Netflix special like on my phone. I've just been browsing, a little bit of doom scrolling, that kind of thing. And that normally on my Pixel, like my phone would be at like it'd probably be at like maybe 60 or 50%, but it was down to 37%. And I was like, well, hold on. Right. Gotta charge it now. And normally on my charger in the bedroom and the charger in my car, which I love my new charger, by the way, it charges quickly. And I know it's because it's a smaller battery and there's not much to fill there, but like it does a good job. Like, it gets up there. And one issue that probably makes it harder for the battery to last longer is that I'm always cranking up the brightness. So I like to have a very bright, pretty screen.
Yeah.
So
you're very different from me in that regard. I don't like that. It hurts my eyes. I want to go back to the charging speed thing, because this is actually really interesting to me. So I've read some reviews where people have complained that the charging is too slow. So it's got 15 watt charging, and yes, that is on paper slower. Okay, so the Pixel 5 is 18 watt. The Z Fold 3 is 18 watt. The OnePlus phones went from 48 to like, I don't know where they are now. They're like 100 watt or some stupid crazy charging speed. However, when you're talking about a 3,300 milliamp hour battery, 15 watt charging is not, it's not that bad. You got, because here's what people, this is my best analogy I can think of, and no, it is not a perfect analogy. Someone's going to be in the comments and say that there's physics and batteries are, okay, I get it, but just bear with me here. If I've got a 16-ounce glass and I'm going to fill it with water, if I pour it at 1 ounce per second, it'll take 16 seconds. If I have a glass that's 8 ounces, but I pour it slower, 3/4 of an ounce a second, they're going to still fill up round about the same time. So it's a smaller battery, it's a smaller cup, and you're pouring the water more slow, but it's a smaller cup. It's pouring more slowly, but it's not way more slowly. So it's still going to fill up relatively quickly, if that makes any sense. And I think that's what's going on there. And you talked about how I think there's one day where you were coming home from work and you plugged it in on your way home from work and you hadn't really used it much, and you were almost fully charged by the time you made, and you only live like 10 minutes from work. So like in that 10-minute span, charging at 15 watts, you were almost fully charged again. So I got home and I was like, oh, how was your battery? You flipped it up and you're like, I'm like 80%. I'm like, how are you at 80%? Well, I charged it on the way home. So
that brings up more though. So the reason why this is okay that the battery is the way that it is because I don't use my phone when I'm at work.
Sure.
It just I just don't use it.
Do you ever find yourself being able to, because you wear a Fitbit sometimes, and that might prevent you from pulling the phone out of the pocket because you can see the notification. Do you ever see, when you're not wearing the Fitbit, does the cover display ever prevent you from opening the screen?
Oh, all the time. So, like, if I have forgotten to put my Fitbit back on, or like the first 3 days at my new job, I was doing like training videos, and I just like had my phone like just sitting up like that in front of me, and I was getting like a lot of messages from people, like old coworkers. You accidentally video called you, and I was just using it like as my watch. Like I just tap the screen and I've got, my notifications, my time, and it's right there. So like I don't open it unless I have the intention of like using it. Unless I am like playing with it, because I do sometimes play with it.
Yeah.
Like I'll just sit there, and I know I shouldn't do that, but I can't help it.
You're using your open and closes, because I think they rate them.
I have
for
like 2,000 closes or something.
Yeah, I think they rate them for like 200,000 open closes, which doesn't sound like that many, but if you think about it, it's like, well, how many times do I do it a day? If on a normal day, and then divide that out. That's like 4 or 5 years worth of opens and closes, unless you're just sitting there doing it over and over.
I feel a little bit better.
And then you may be filling them up.
I definitely am fiddling with it way too much.
Do you feel like there's an impact from the added intentionality of having to open your phone to use it? Does that ever prevent you from doom scrolling, from just pulling your phone out and just scrolling, because there is one more thing you have to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, like, I'm so easily like distracted, and part of like my ADHD is that if there's a lot of effort involved doing something, and like what I get out of it is not that great, then I'm not going to do it. So like for me, if I'm not really getting on my phone for like a reason and I have to open it up, then I'm like, it's not really worth it. I'll just leave it shut and do something else, or whatever. But I love that part of it, because as a person who's aware of how bad, doom scrolling can be on your mental health, like I feel like we need to be more intentional with our phones. Like I'm not on social media to help prevent that. And having a phone that you have to work to open and close, like that definitely helps a lot. And that's part of the appeal for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, like it's weird how we're affected by such small barriers. Like I remember, like it's like I want to use, Instagram less, so I just took it off the home screen years ago, and it's like now I got to go to my app drawer and go to it, and I just would use it less because it just wasn't as immediately available. We're weird. We're weird chimps with pants on, and we're easily manipulated. So I mean, overall, let's kind of give a verdict here. How do you, if you can put the phone, let's use a number. If you could apply a number to how do you feel about this phone? What number comes to mind? And let's make this so 10 would be it's perfect. 9 would be it's amazing, like this is an amazing phone, right? 8 is it's a good phone.
Yeah.
7 would be like, or no, 8 would still be 8. Let's go with 8's great. It's a great phone. 7 is good.
7's good.
6 is okay. 5 is mediocre. 4 below, it gets worse. I don't think you're going to be a 4 or below. So
no.
Where would you put this phone?
I would put it at like maybe like a 7.5 or an 8.
So good,
Like
almost great.
Yeah. I would say if it were made for my hands,
yeah,
that would make it like a 9.
So
if it were just
that is your biggest detractor, is that it's just enormous.
It's big. It's not comfortable in my hands.
Sure.
It's too big. Otherwise it would be like a 9. So, and I'm sorry, but that's like a big factor.
Yeah.
Also the fact that like I have to have it in a case because of the size and because of how slippery it is without the case. That is also a thing because I have major anxiety about breaking phones.
This was something
It stresses me out bad.
When I got the Fold, this is not talked about enough, and the Flip is the same way. Without a case on, this thing is preposterously slippery. Like, it's ridiculous how slippery these phones are. Like, if you don't have like a good grip on it, it'll just slide right through your fingers. It's horrible. And the Flip is the same way. I think Mr. Mobile, in one of his videos, he talked about how like you could set it on a surface, and if the surface wasn't perfectly flat, it's just sitting there sliding off the table. Like, it's crazy slippery.
And I think that's why these cases are
they're grippy,
like silicone material. And if you hold up my Pixel, like it had like texture on the back. And you can see the scratches like on it, like even that tough phone.
This poor thing has. Let's see if I can get this thing to focus here.
I've got like a scratch like right in the top there, and then right in the bottom, and then on the screen itself. But like that was a textured phone, and even that phone I would like drop sometimes. And my phone was like, or my camera's not focusing. Look at me, focus.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get it to focus on the yeah, there you go. There's your big old lovely scratch on that inner screen. It happens.
That was week 1. Week 1.
With the Z Flip, being closed all the time when it's not. That happened in a pocket.
Yes.
Like, that almost certainly happened in a pocket.
That happened in my work vest. My work vest probably had my safety knife in there too, and it just got the screen. But
it'll be safer with it being closed. Yep. So
go
ahead, finish.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you. I was just gonna add to it, like, I just don't feel like you can give like a great score to any phone that kind of requires an accessory.
I think that's fair.
So yeah.
I think that's fair. But still, you like it much more than the things you like. I would say outweigh the things that hold you back. Overall, you feel positively about it. You're glad that you have it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be better for me too. I think I think I'm gonna see that I'm gonna be using my phone less for things that don't matter. And also one thing I've noticed too is like I've been using I would like to try it like reading a book though. Like, I don't know if I would like reading it like that, but like I need to try it. But I've been using my other devices too. Like, I've been using my tablets more, my computer more. Like, I came in here the other day and like I was actually like using it to like search things instead of using my phone.
Right.
And I thought that was odd that I was using my computer to do like a computer thing.
I've gone completely the other direction between the Duo and the Fold. Being able to pop this thing open and have that in my pocket. Yeah. Like my Galaxy Tab, my Surface Pro 7, they don't get used that much because why would I need to? This thing can it's just as good. Whereas for you, for some reason, something about the Flip, is making you want to use your laptop or computer, which is interesting.
Yeah, because I want this to be my phone now. Like, I can use it to consume media, and I will use it for like videos and Netflix and stuff because it's awesome because I can just do this.
Yeah.
But this to me, this is a phone.
You're making a mental effort to say the phone is closed, don't open it, use something else or do something else, which I think is interesting.
Yes. Okay. And one last thing too is when I go running, I can put my earbuds and my phone in my pocket and not have any issue. And actually, I can do that in any of my other jeans that actually have pockets. They fit.
Incredible.
So
maybe that might be the best feature for you. Yeah. So I think we've covered pretty much everything. That we're at 40 minutes of Z Flip 3 coverage. I don't know how many people are going to want to listen to 40 minutes of us talking about the Z Flip 3, but maybe there's somebody out there that wanted a really deep dive, and not just a deep dive, but a woman's perspective. Because even though some people in the media would like for us to believe that men and women are exactly the same in every possible way, I do not subscribe necessarily to that idea. I think that women have a different perspective, and things that you've talked about, like your phone. Here's a perfect example. Your phone fits in your pocket. Women's pockets are tiny, so it's important to you. I wouldn't have cared that much about that.
That length right there. That right there is deep pocket for a woman. It's
about the depth of a big pocket.
They're normally about that big. So
yeah. So I think it's great to have your perspective on the Flip out there, and in, you know, you're not as big of a tech person as I am. Very few people are as big of a tech person as I am. Some of you guys and gals watching will be. But having a sort of a normal person's perspective, and on top of that, a normal woman's perspective on the Z Flip. And interestingly enough, my coworker that bought the Z Flip, I would put in the same category. Not a tech person. She's just a normal person who saw it and went, "Ooh, I like that," and bought it because it looked good to her. So I think that's really interesting that the Z Flip is kind of triggering that kind of behavior with people. So I think this will be hopefully useful to some people out there. So, like I said, camera review will be in the description. And then I'll link to the Galaxy Buds 2 unboxing and first impressions down below as well. I guess that's all the housekeeping I need to do. So guys, if you made it to the end of this video, thanks, because this was a long video. Stay tuned for more coverage just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.